Hello world, I'm Saint Dev Guy. When I first started streaming and making these videos, I was planning to use examples from the stream to make points I wanted to make in the videos more relevant. And I haven't really done that. So this video is kind of a chance to go back and hook some things together. For example, when I first started my project, I defined the scope, and I defined the scope based on what the user would experience and how the user would think as they went through the game. And this game is really about teaching users how to play complicated board games like chess and Go and things. And it could be more than board games, but that's a good starting point. And so I figured that they didn't have a lot of space to learn a lot of how to play my game. So I made a decision quite early that my game would consist of getting the bear to walk around either by arrow keys or various keys or controllers, or just by clicking on a spot or touching a spot on a mobile device, or I guess on a computer touchscreen. And as you walk past something, you would be invited to interact with it. And you could just keep working by, or you could go back, and then you would have choices of how to interact. Say hello. And we've said hello. And really, the whole game can be nothing more than that to the user is walking around and interacting with things. And you will always be told when to interact. The other thing about user experiences, as you get better at the game, you might want to take some shortcuts, and so there will definitely be other options, other ways to do things rather than walking to the next location to interact, but those will all be optional. You don't have to do it. So that was really the user interface of the game, and it's all driven by not wanting to overload the user, by the user experience that being intuitive. There are a lot of things I don't know about the game yet. For example, I don't even know what game engine I want to use. So rather than jump into the big game, I'm making this little mini game. It's pretty much going to consist right now of what we see here on the screen. This camera doesn't even move. And there's just going to be a conversation and a place where you started, your house, to go back to. And you'll have options when you get there, like exiting the game and various things. And I can implement that in multiple game engines. So when I make a decision in the game engine, it can be this little prototype can tell me interesting facts about the game engine rather than just trying to guess and hope I'm right. Other examples. I had real trouble, for example, getting the click to work. And like when you click on a house, it doesn't just go to the window, it goes back towards the door. It should end up there so that you can interact with it. And you click on the bear, and it should go over to the bear so you can interact with that too. And I did some tutorials and I tried to figure it out based on examples, but the examples told you how to make it work for their game. But since I had all this running already, it didn't tell them how to work for my game. But reading the documentation made me understand the configurations I needed to use. So I used a really small example. In fact, there it is. It's a really, really small example. It just has one block in it. But because it was so small, I can make changes. I can delete things and add things until I got it to work. And until I got it to work just like the mini game. And understanding all these configuration options over here. It was very much useful to be able to play with it and change things. And the documentation gave me the clues I needed to make it work right. So another thing I did, I started out just making objects for the game, like the house. This was my weakest, it still is my weakest skill set. So I figured if I did it first, then I would not have the pressure of finishing it right away and to get back to something else because there was nothing else to get back to. And so I would like make an object learn something from that, go make another object, and when I learned something new, I could go back and I could change the other objects based on what I've learned, and I just kept iterating through them until they all came out looking approximately like they belong together. And one of the things I also learned once I started bringing into Godot is that I didn't want to bring in each individual object separately. I wanted to bring them all in at once. So I ended up making this file that is all the objects put together. I can still work on it in the individual ones, but when I come in here, anything that I make changes in this, and this is the thing I can bring into my game engines, and it's all there for one file, for one export, which makes it much more efficient to make changes, which really it helped the process a lot. So that's a great example of improving my processes as opposed to loading a bunch of files into the game engine, just loading one. And that has, as I iterate through, that has helped tremendously. When I started to load in the game engine, of course the lighting's different, and messing around with the colors and stuff until I could get it to look more or less kind of right. This is much better lighting in the game engine to a certain extent. So those are the things I've learned, and those are some of the examples of stuff that I've talked about in the videos, but never really applied the lessons from the game, which kind of drove the videos, into the videos themselves. So from now on, I hope to combine the lessons from the game, and when something comes up in the game that I feel like I can talk about in a video, I can introduce the video, the lessons learned, and give an example from the game I'm developing as to how that applies in the real world. That's all for now. Stay sane.